In this video, we'll be solving fractions. Now, the questions that we'll be solving in this video were all retrieved from the most recent CXC past papers, so you want to stick around for that. If you're new to this channel, then you want to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified whenever we post new videos. So these are the questions that we want to look at today. So you should be seeing them on the screen right now. So we'll be looking at 6 questions, all right? But we're going to work them from the old to new, all right? So we're starting with June 2017, okay? What you guys can do, the questions that you're currently seeing on screen, you could attempt those questions if you so choose to, and then resume the video and watch and see the correct solutions for each question. All right, now here we have the fraction question on the June 2017 paper. All right, and this asks us to use a calculator or otherwise to calculate the exact value of 4 and 1 over 3 minus 1 and 2 over 5 in bracket divided by 4 over 15. All right, so what we're going to do first is to convert the mixed fractions to improper fractions. So that's what we're going to do. So 4 over 3 is the same thing as 13 over 3. And if you're not comfortable with fractions, then what I simply did, we actually multiply the whole number by the denominator. So 4 times 3, that's 12 plus, and then we add the result to the numerator right here. So 4 times 3, that's 12 plus 1, that's 13. All right. And we kept the denominator right there. So 13 over 3 minus, and again we do the same thing, 1 times 5, that's 5, and then we add the result that we got to the numerator. So 1 times 5, that's 5, plus 2, that's 7 over 5. All right, now what we are going to do now, remember we had this in bracket, can't forget about that, and we have 4 over 15. All right, what we're going to do now is to simplify what's in the bracket now. We can subtract these fractions, and what we're going to do, the method I'm going to use, all right, might be new to you, but it's very easy, especially if you're not comfortable with LCM. So what we're going to do, if we have 5 in the denominator over here, we're going to multiply this thing by 5 over 5, all right? So look at what I'm going to do. Here I have the 13 over 3 minus 7 over 5, and I'm just looking at the bracket now. All right, we won't forget about this guy over here, we'll come to him sooner or later. All right, so what we're going to do, if we have 5 over here, we're going to multiply over here by 5 over 5. All right, and we're doing this to obtain common denominators. All right, and if we have 3 in this denominator, we're going to multiply over here by 3 over 3. All right, let's see what happens when we do that. So we are going to keep this thing in bracket, divide, remember this thing, we're dividing by 4 over 15. Now we have 5 times 13, that gives me 65 over 5 times 3, which is 15, minus 7 times 3, that's what? 7 times 3 is 21, over 5 times 3 is 15, all right? Now we have common denominators. So that's what we're working towards. Once we have common denominators, we can then pretty much simplify the numerators and put that over the common denominator. So 65 minus 21, that's 44, over the common denominator, which is 15, divided by 4 over 50. All right. And if you're not comfortable with this part of it, so if you're not comfortable with this move that I made, then you can always, let me just box it up. So if you're not comfortable with that, you can always use the LCM method to work that part of it. All right, so if you use the LCM method, you will obtain the same 44 over 15 right here. So what I'm going to do now is to actually finish this thing. All right, so when we're dividing fractions, we keep the first fraction, which is which is 44 over 15. And we are going to change the division sign to multiplication. Then we are going to reciprocate this fraction over here, the second fraction, all right? By reciprocating, what we mean, we're going to flip this thing, all right? So 4 over 15 will become 15 over 4, all right? So we'll pretty much flip that thing. Now we can simplify. 15 cancel 15 right here. 4 go into 4 one time. 4 into 44 goes 11 times. 11 times 1, that's 11. 1 times 1 is 1. And 11 divided by 1 will remain 11. Alright? So that's how we go about solving that question. Now here we have January 2017. Alright? And this was a fraction question on the paper. So using a calculator or otherwise, calculate the exact value of 3 and 1 over 2 times 1 and 2 over 3 all over 4 and 1 over 5. Alright? Now the thing I always tell my students to do, if you're not comfortable working fractions that looks like this, you can always separate the numerator from the denominator, alright? Or if you're comfortable, we can call the numerator top. So we have top and we write out what's in the top. So we have 3 and 1 over 2 times 1 and 2 over 3, alright? So the first thing that we want to do again is to convert the mixed fractions into improper fractions, alright? So we'll have 3 times 2, that's 6, plus 1, that's 7 over 2, times 1 times 3, that's 3, plus 2, that's 5 over 3, alright? Where can we go from here? Now we can multiply the numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So 7 times 5, that's 35 over 2 times 3, that's 6. Alright, so when we work out the numerator here, which is 3 and 1 over 2 times 1 and 2 over 3, we'll obtain the value of 35 divided by 6. Alright, so that's what we'll get. Now we want to sort the denominator now. Alright, so we have 4 and 1 over 5. So we're going to convert the 4 and 1 over 5 to an improper fraction. Alright, so let's convert this thing now. So we have 4, and this is what we have in the denominator. So we have 4 and 1 over 5. So how do we go about this? Again, we'll multiply the whole number by the denominator, then add the numerator. Alright, so we have 4 times 5, that's 20, plus 1, that's 21. So this is the same thing as 21 over the denominator, which is 5. Alright, so that's how we treat with that. Now what we're going to do now is to divide the numerator by the denominator, alright? Or the top by the bottom. So here we would have 35 over 6 divided by 21 over 5. Alright, so again, remember when we're dividing fractions, we keep the first fraction, which is 35 over 6. Then we change the division sign to multiplication. And then we flip the second fraction, alright? So, or we reciprocate the second fraction. So that simply means 21 over 5 will become 5 over 21, alright? And we can simplify this thing. So 7 can go into 35 5 times, and 7 can go into 21 3 times, alright? And then now we can multiply across. So 5 times 5, that's 25 over 6 times 3, which is 18. Alright, and we can also write this in mixed fraction. Also, 18 going to 25 one time with a remainder of 7 over 18. Alright, so that's pretty much how we treat with this question. Now we are looking at January 2018, and this was the fraction question on this paper, right? So this asks us using a calculator or otherwise calculate 5 and 1 over 2 divided by 3 and 2 over 3 plus 1 and 4 over 5. Alright, so according to the law of operation, or order of operations rather, we are required to divide first before we can add. Alright, But what we are going to do first is to convert all the mixed fractions to improper fractions, alright? And again, we multiply the whole number by the denominator, then add the product to the numerator. So 5 times 2, that's 10, plus 1, that's 11. So 5 and 1 over 2 is the same thing as 11 over 2. Divided by, here we have 3 times 3, that's 9, plus 2. This is also 11 over 3. Plus, here would have now 1 times 5, that's 5, plus 4, that's 9 over 5. Alright, now when we're dividing again, so we could put this thing in bracket because we have to divide first. Alright, when we're dividing now, we are required to keep the first fraction, so always remember that. Then we do what? Change the division sign to multiplication, then flip the second fraction. So 11 over 3 will become 3 over 11. Alright, and we still have to add the 9 over 5 right here. Alright, we can simplify this thing. So 11 will cancel 11, so 11 going to 11 one time, 11 to 11 one time. Alright, so here would be left with 1 times 3, that's 3, 2 times 1, that's 2, and we're adding 9 out here. Alright, so to bring some balance to what we have done so far, I'm going to take the LCM method to work this one. However, you could also, being that you have 5 in the denominator over here, you could multiply over here by 5 over 5. You have 2 in the denominator over here, you can multiply over here by 2 over 2 if you so choose to. Alright, but in this case, because I've done that in the previous question, then I will use the LCM method to solve this one. Alright, so we're going to find the LCM. So the LCM for 2 and 5, that would be 10. Alright, 2 going to 10 5 times, 5 times 3, that's 15, plus 5 into 10, that goes 2 times, 2 times 9, that's 18. Alright, and 15 plus 18 gives us 33 if I'm not mistaken. Alright, so this would have been our solution. However, we can rewrite this thing as a mixed fraction, 10 going to 33 3 times with a remainder of 3 over 10. Alright, so this would have been our answer for this particular question. Now here we have June 2019. Alright, and this asks us to use a calculator or otherwise to evaluate this thing right here, which is 2 and 1 over 4 minus 1 and 3 over 5 all over 3. Alright, now how can we go about doing this thing? Alright, again, as I mentioned before, we can separate the numerator from the denominator. That makes life so much easier for us. Alright, so we can separate the top from the bottom. So in the top we'll have 2 and 1 over 4 minus 1 and 3 over 5. And what we're going to do is to convert the mixed fractions to improper fractions. So we will convert this 2 and 1 over 4 to by multiplying the whole number by the denominator, then add the result to the numerator. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1, that's 9 over 4 minus 1 times 5, that's 5 plus 3, that's 8 over 5. Alright, now what we're going to do, we're going to use the LCM method. Alright, I think most people will be comfortable with that, so I'm going to use the LCM method again. So we are going to find the LCM for this thing. The LCM for 4 and 5, that would be 20. Again, that's the lowest number that both the denominators can go into without leaving a remainder. 4 into 20 goes 5 times. We'll multiply that by the corresponding numerator. 5 times 9, that's 45 minus 5 into 20 goes 4 times. 8 times 4, that's 32. 45 minus 32, that's what? I believe that's 13 if I'm not mistaken. So we're left with 13 over 20. Alright, now the bottom is already sorted for us. That's just one number down there, so that's 3. Alright, so what we're going to do is to divide the top by the denominator. So we're going to have 13 over 20 divided by 3. Alright, Now, a key thing to note is that 3 is the same thing as 3 over 1. Alright? That's the same thing. 3 is the same thing as 3 over 1. Because if you divide 3 by 1, then you'll obtain 3 just the same. Alright? So what we're going to do again, when we divide in fractions, we keep the first fraction, which is 13 over 20. In this case, we change the division sign to multiplication. Then we'll flip the second fraction. Alright? So that's why I did that thing. To help you better understand what will take place here, I place the 3 over 1. So we'll flip this thing. So 3 over 1 will become 1 over 3. Alright? And we can pretty much simplify this thing now. So 13 times 1, that's 13. Over 20 times 3, that's 60. Alright? So this would have been the correct solution for this particular problem. Now here we have January 2019, alright? Now this question asks us to evaluate 1 over 2 times 3 over 5 all over 3 and 1 over 2, alright? And it further go on to tell us that we should give our answer as a fraction in its lowest term, alright? So we have to bear that in mind. Now again, we're going to separate the top from the bottom. Seems quite easier when we do it like that. So what's in the top? We have 1 over 2 times 3 over 5. Alright? So what we're going to do, this is pretty easy to treat with. We just multiply numerator by numerator and the denominator by denominator. So 1 times 3, that's 3. 2 times 5, that's 10. Alright? And we're pretty much finished with the top. Now here we have the denominator. We have the denominator to treat with now. And we're just going to convert this thing to an improper fraction. So 3 and 1 over 2 is the same thing as 7 over 2, alright? So 3 times 2, that's 6, plus 1, that's 7 over 2. So we'll multiply the whole number by the denominator, and the result that we get, we'll add that to the numerator, alright? So that's how I get this thing right here. And again, we'll divide the top by the bottom. So we have 3 over 10 divided by 7 over 2. Alright? And when we're dividing fractions, we keep the first fraction. So we'll keep the first fraction, which is 3 over 10 in this case. We change the sign, the division sign, to multiplication. And then we'll flip the second fraction, which we refer to as the reciprocal. Alright? Which simply means that we're going to flip this thing. So 7 over 2 will become 2 over 7. Alright? And we can do some simplification right here. So we can simplify. So 2 into itself goes 1, 2 into 10 goes 5, 3 times 1, that's 3, over 5 times 7, which is 35. Alright? And this is pretty much our answer. So this is how we give our answer as a fraction in its lowest term. Alright? And that's how we treat with this particular question. Now here we have January 2020, alright? And this asks us using a calculator or otherwise calculate the exact value of the following. 4 and 1 over 5 times 1 over 3 minus 1 and 1 over 4, alright? So this is the most recent fractional question that was given on the CXC exam, paper 2 that is, alright? And before I solve this question, for you guys that are going to sit the June exam, you guys can let me know in the comment section which topics you would rather me to look at on the past CXC papers, and I'll do so, alright? So what you guys can do, you can mention that down in the comment section below, and I'll look at those, and in short order I'll address those questions that you have down there. Alright, so we have 4 and 1 over 5 times 1 over 3 minus 1 and 1 over 4. Now what we're going to do is to convert the mixed fractions to improper fraction. Alright, and we have 2 here. So 4 and 1 over 5, again we'll multiply the whole number by the denominator, and then we'll add the result to the numerator. So 4 times 5, that's 20, plus 1, that's 21. So we have 21 and we keep the same denominator. 21 over 5 times 1 over 3 minus, again we do the same thing, 1 times 4, that's 4, plus 1, that's 5 over 4. Alright, Now what we're going to do, we have to multiply first, because according to the order of operations, we have to multiply before we subtract. If you also want to learn the order of operations, you can check the description below. I'll have that video titled Order of Operation, and the link to that video will be in the description section below. Alright, so what we can do here, we can cancel. So I'm going to put the multiplication section in bracket, so you can cancel this thing, because 3 can go into itself once, 3 can go into 21 7 times. Alright, so 7 times 1, that's 7, 5 times 1, that's 5, minus, now we have the 5 over 4 out here. And again, we can always use the LCM method to treat with this part of it. And again, we can always use the LCM method to treat with this. Alright, so we can find the LCM of this thing, and the LCM in this case would have been 20, because that's the smallest number that both 5 and 4 can go into without leaving a remainder. 5 into 20 goes 4 times. I'll use that to multiply the 7 right there. 4 times 7, that's 28, minus 4 into 20, that goes 5 times. 5 times 5, that's 25. And there it is. We're at our solution. 28 minus 25, that's 3 over 20. Alright, and that's pretty much how you go about solving fractions when it comes to CXC. Alright, so if you have watched this video to the end, what are you waiting for? Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that as yet. If you have already done that, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, classmates. If you're a teacher, please share it with your students. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.